Hi, my name is Evan. I'm the founder of Bee Agriculture. I'm here to talk to you about bioenergetic agriculture, growing soil, not just plants. So thanks for having me. I know Linda's entertained you wildly. Um, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on myself. I owned a retail hydroponic organic garden center for 15 years. Had a organic lawn care company for 3 years, managed a 14-acre market vegetable farm, founded a food lawn project in my local town of Wilmington, North Carolina, and had a wholesale manufacturing distribution company called Progressive Farms that manufactured the Microbe Maker Compost Tea system all over the country and all over the world. So I've done a lot in my time in agriculture. I have done it all as a labor of love, learned a ton. At heart, I'm a teacher and a writer. So over the last 3 months, I've kind of backed away from all my product development and business sales type endeavor and started what I call Bee Agriculture. Be a part of agriculture. Whether we realize it or not, we already are. So my aim is to really inspire people with the knowledge that I've been able to develop and that has been taught to me, and pay it forward. So I invite everybody out there to visit my website, beeagriculture.com. I maintain a blog, and I have some consulting capacity, some soil testing ability that we'll talk a little bit about today. So I just wanted to kind of dive right into that. I prepared a presentation, and would love to invite any questions after the talk. If we're able to maintain connection with Linda. Otherwise, just please contact me through my website, beeagriculture.com. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about growing soil. Agriculture is really geared around growing plants, if we really deduce it down. We do that at the expense of soil. Everything starts in the soil, literally everything. As Linda likes to say, we're one seed away. The seed starts in the soil. It literally, agriculture defines humanity. It was our first industry. To this day, it's probably the largest industry. It defines humanity. That was really the moment where we were invited to specialize and start to pursue our passions. So what agriculture has become is what the great Charles Walters of Acres USA called toxic rescue chemistry. We're chasing the symptom. No different than what we're doing in modern medicine for the most part. There's great hope in some of the changes that are being made, but agriculture is not really meant to look like this. I believe that the future is open source and decentralized. I try to share as much information as I can and really teach as many people as I can, so that we can all continue to teach ourselves. I believe that really the experience generated comes through action. So a lot of what bee agriculture is recognizing that everybody should grow at least one thing that they eat, but that not everybody can grow all of their own food. When we don't, this is what it looks like. This is a CAFO farm, meat farm. It's, I'm not on a soapbox about meat eating, but the way we eat is destroying the earth, and it's literally crippling humanity. It could look like this. So, there is a great ability to, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, grow against the grain of the way agriculture is set up today. But it is absolutely something that we can achieve with some intention. And I believe it's only going to become easier to support ourselves through food as we go here. So I just kind of wanted to set the table a little bit and really illustrate why growing local nutrient-dense food is so important. This is just a little schematic based on some research that nutrient density in food has declined over time drastically. 1950, one apple had the same amount of iron as 26 apples does in 1998. You had to eat 8 oranges today to get 1 apple's worth of the nutrient density. So, you extrapolate this of vitamin A. So if you extrapolate this across food, this is just two nutrients within 2 crops. Our food is empty. It's no longer our medicine. And really, it's our duty and our interest and our responsibility, frankly, to regenerate that. And I think that's a lot of what's happening in modern agriculture. Empty food equals empty people. If it's not in the soil, it's not in the plant. If it's not in the plant, it's not in the people. You can just see here we spend $3.5 trillion a year on healthcare in the U.S. It's more than anybody, and we consistently rank at the bottoms of health. It's truly unacceptable. It's sick care is what it is. And it's unfortunate because it's not that everyone involved doesn't care. We've just designed a system that doesn't incentivize nourishment through our food system. And that's changeable. So, the educational component of how we go about doing that is quite frayed at the moment, but the momentum is building and people are starting to wake up. And, I hope to create a platform that people can engage on, and we can start to lobby the right people to make the changes needed. 85% of people are missing vitamins, essential vitamins in their diet. This is, USDA, CDC level data. We know what the problem is. It's 47% of births are C-section. I reference that because of the importance of the gut biota and the body biomass that's transferred from the woman to the child. The research of Dr. Zach Bush, who I'll reference in a minute, is so important in this regard because it's we're barely human. There's more microbes in and on a healthy human body than there are human cells. Kind of makes you squirm a little bit. But the central importance of this starts at birth. And, when we bypass these natural mechanisms in which to build the diversity of microbes in our bodies, it really makes it harder for the body to build itself accordingly. And it's really the same parallel in soil. The central focus is about growing soil, again, not just plants. So I wanted to give you a specific example of I invented this word called destructive. The idea that we work against ourselves in ways that we wouldn't if we were asked. Could be driving a car down the road. It's a finite resource, it pollutes, etc. But so it's not in judgment. We all do it. It's just a recognition of this phenomenon is so important, and a real important one in today's in the modern world is the use of glyphosate. Most people have Roundup in their garage to kill weeds in their driveway or what have you. Glyphosate, this might sound technical, but this is really important information, and I'm hoping you can follow up on a little bit of it. But glyphosate was designed to block what's called the shikimate pathway. And this pathway is not in human cells. So, Monsanto, who no longer has the patent on glyphosate, but is kind of the original proliferator of it, most of it comes out of China these days, is basically designed to prevent this pathway in plants and in microbes. So I just got done speaking about how our bodies are primarily microbial organisms. And what that means essentially is that this glyphosate, which is a water-soluble compound, is everywhere. You can see the bullet there. 75% of rain samples have glyphosate in it. 93% of urine samples have glyphosate in it. Even if you maintain an organic diet, it's everywhere. It can rain on the organic farm. This pathway, the shikimate pathway, is designed in the body, responsible in the body for processing 3 of the 9 essential amino acids that don't come from the body, that are vital through our diet. So not only is it hindering the gut microbes in the body, the microbiome of the body, but it's basically restricting the body's ability to process essential building blocks of life. Amino acids make up proteins that carry out the literal building of the body. So almost 200 billion pounds of this compound are used globally. This is something that is so entrenched in what we do that it is difficult to take a step back from it, but it is doable. So I just invite you as an example to look into Dr. Zach Bush's research. It's very, very cutting edge, and it'll give you an idea of what the problem is, but also what we can do about it. So a lot of this comes from our perspective, and when we understand these things in these ways, it's going to change our action. So I developed a platform called Personal Agriculture, and it basically is built on these premises. Let's eat our ideals. Everybody can't grow their own food, but eating is an agricultural act. Our buying power, what we purchase determines the food that we're served. Grow your own food. Again, everybody should grow at least one thing that they eat. It's a very therapeutic, spiritual, magical process. It makes it taste better, I promise. And I'm a big proponent of becoming our own expert. We have pawned off so much of the responsibility of how we're supposed to do things to the experts of the world. And it's gotten us into a lot of trouble. You know, we're not thinking for ourselves, and we're more powerful and we're smarter than we realize. This stuff may sound very technical and complicated, but once you break it down into its, you know, simple parts, it's really not overwhelming, and it empowers you to learn more, and we need that in every way. So, you know, I've been a consultant basically my entire 15-year agricultural career. I mentioned I worked through business to do that, but I'd sit there for hours with somebody in my retail store, and, you know, eventually Amazon.com and, you know, just the nature of business kind of caught up with me. And one day I realized it wasn't really paying the bills. And this is about 2 years ago. And but in that time, I consulted many acreage farmers, commercial farmers, backyard farmers, whoever it might be. And, you know, I was originally inspired by the book Secrets of the Soil. I'd highly recommend you seek that book out. And, you know, I got a BS in biology from a major university. And I got out of school and I really didn't even know what I wanted to know. And, you know, I found this book, and it introduced me to what's called Biodynamic Agriculture by Dr. Rudolf Steiner. He gave these lectures, his first reaction to chemical farming back in 1924. And it just blew my mind. It kind of, in a nutshell, kind of offered this idea that there's more to life than what's physically here. And if you look around in agriculture or medicine or any kind of important industry of the day, it's very materialistic. That's the age that we live in. But this book really inspired in me that there was more than that, and it challenged me to start working with it. And I quickly discovered that biodynamics, which is, you know, planting by celestial rhythms, and it's kind of homeopathic farming, if you will, kind of far out stuff. I didn't believe half of it when I first read it. I've since spent 15 years validating it. But I realized that it really wouldn't work for a conventional farmer. You know, you can't go spraying energies over the land and fix everything. There were very fundamental pieces that needed to be referenced: soil testing, microbial diversity, cover crops, soil structure, these sorts of things. So what came out of that experience was what I call bioenergetic agriculture, the relevance of there being physical, mineral, biological, and energetic components to a living system. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the mineral and the biological. The physical component tends to take care of itself when you get the microbes and the mineral balance right. And biodynamics, while as fascinating as it is, and life force, you know, again, we're more than the sum of our parts. You know, could probably take a whole hour on its own to really do it justice. So I'll leave that to your further research or any follow-up questions you might have. But, you know, when you're talking about the mineral balance in soil, this is the critical issue. It's called the law of the minimum. And essentially it says that, you know, a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. Kind of an obvious concept, but if you think about like NPK on fertilizer, you know, there's 3 numbers on the front of a fertilizer label: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You know, the focus is on 3 elements. A plant arguably has to have at least 17 elements to grow. Those are called the essential elements, broken down into macronutrients like NPK, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and micronutrients: iron, boron, manganese, copper, zinc, etc. So, you know, within those elements, if one's not present, the plant can't grow. This is the basis of hydroponic agriculture. This is what a plant has to have, not what a plant wants. But the important point is that if everything's perfect except for one element, the system is limited to that element, to the availability of that element. So within that becomes, you know, the concept we discussed for macro and micronutrients. Trace elements are what the plant wants, not what the plant has to have, but what it wants. And if you see on the right is a typical fertilizer, and you look on the left at a product that I used to make, it was a seed mineral fertilizer. Most people think seawater is bad for plants, but if you dilute it like a fertilizer, it's actually an amazing fertilizer. But it contains every earthbound element in a natural balance. So, you know, why would Mother Nature make an element not needed in the garden? It's quite rhetorical when you kind of get to the bottom of it. So there's this phenomenon, you know, talking about energy. The soil is energetic. It's a net negative charge. You know, clay and organic matter overall are negatively charged. Sand is neutral to simplify soil, way oversimplify soil. But this negative charge holds positive elements. That's called the cation exchange capacity. You can see the schematic here. So the elements, the majority of what plants need to grow are positively charged. So when the soil being negative, the more clay and organic matter you have, the more nutrition it can hold within the soil electrically, the less you need to fertilize. So you really want to encourage the building of this exchange capacity over time. And it turns out there's a balance within the ability of the soil to hold these cations within the major elements. You don't want 60 to 70% calcium, 10 to 20% magnesium, around 5 to 7% potassium, to 2 to 4% sodium, and this is a range, not an exact science. And the irony is, when you get this balance within range, the pH is always where you want it to be. Most agriculture is really geared towards pH, like using lime to increase acidic soil. But the reality is that pH does not define soil health. So I developed a process I call soil test solutions, and it delivers this base saturation information. The approach, you have to look for all of the elements in order to evaluate them all, in order to not lose in the law of the minimum. But not only that, within this range of what the soil should be, we can run the data that you generate from your soil, the lab generates from the soil, through what it should be, and it kicks out an elemental deficiency by weight that we can apply to known agricultural commodities like lime or potassium sulfate or manganese sulfate, depending on what you need. And so within that ability to make that recommendation, we actually deliver the solutions of what you need to balance your soil, and the results that you get are quite amazing. So we can do this on our website, biodynamicagriculture.com. It's $115 for a single test, as low as $65 if you team up with some of your friends. We put shipping labels in there so you don't have to pay for any extracurriculars, which is where the cost comes in. If you can pool your resources, you can make that a little bit cheaper. So this is kind of a breakdown of the depth of the data that we generate. You can see, in this scenario, you have a low pH, you have the correct amount of calcium, give or take, but you're very deficient in magnesium, potassium, sodium, and the other elements. So in this situation, you might go to the extension service and they would tell you to use some lime to increase the pH. The reality is you already got enough calcium. That's what lime is. So managing the pH is not about what it takes to balance soil. And the reality is we know very little about just what soil is. Da Vinci, we know more about the movement of celestial bodies than the soil underfoot, and I think that's probably true to this day. This is an electron microscope image of plant exudates. We take for granted that more than 50% of photosynthesis is actually used to exude nutrients through this to attract microbes in the soil. There's a communication network there. So microbes are absolutely essential. They manufacture soil. This is what's happening in the compost process. This is how you can grow a forest, or not you, or anyone for that matter, but this is how a forest can grow with absolutely no fertilizer input. The strength and maturity of the soil is profound, and it's developed by what's called the soil food web. You can see this infographic here. The smallest organisms really define the health of the larger organisms, not unlike the web of life in the ocean. The plankton, without the plankton, there is no higher organism. So, you've really, the concept is to develop the teammates. This is another electron microscope image of a beneficial fungi capturing a parasitic nematode. You get this kind of pest orientation for free when you have a living soil food web in your soil. So this is was a microscope image I took of a compost tea recipe. You can see here, this is a beneficial nematode. Most nematodes are actually beneficial. The ones that eat our plants directly, the parasitic ones are the ones we pay attention to because they're harming our plant. We take the rest for granted. You can see the protozoa up there as well. So, what I really wanted to kind of wrap up on is, organic is so much more than just growing clean food. That's really how it's defined in industry and in society. But it's about feeding microbes. If you really boil it down, artificial materials, biocides, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, toxic materials that are artificial or man-made work against the soil food web, and they degrade over time, and your situation gets worse and worse and worse, and you're chasing the symptoms around even more and paying more money for it. So, think about the microbes like construction workers. Think about organic fertilizers as the building materials, and think about the trace elements as the toolkit. Even if the element can't be used by the plant, arguably it's used by the microbe as a cofactor to make enzymes that catalyze all sorts of situations in the soil that humans could never accomplish on their own. And have some patience. This is a study over a 10-year period, the long term, that shows the communication between different microbes in the soil. And it's absolutely profound. The strength in the soil that you can generate when you give it time to work. So, an easy way to kind of highlight the importance here. You know, most everyone out there has heard of the importance of the gut and the brain communication in the body, and how that maintains the health of the human organism. Well, the compost pile is the gut of the landscape. You know, people ask all the time, what can I do to, you know, make results in my garden work better? Well, start a compost pile. It's easy to do. It's not all you need. You know, that mineralization of the soil is so important. Composting is kind of concentrating that soil process. And there's a concept called Compost Tea that concentrates the composting process. It's not unlike tending an aquarium. It's very simple to do. Information on all of this can be found on my blog at biodynamicagriculture.com. So I invite you to go there to get the details. Maybe ask Linda some questions about, you know, she knows a lot about this as well. So it was really great to meet you. Wish I could have been there in person, but appreciate your time and your attention. Let's give it back to Linda. And, you know, like I said, if there's any questions on, you know, information that she might have an answer for, please do engage her. And it was great to be with you today. See ya.